Welcome to the Wandiology podcast, where we learn and demystify astrology as a tool to gain a deeper understanding of our energetic signatures and our interactions with the world. Today, I'm joined by the lovely, incomparable Sonny. And Sonny is an amazing person. She is a Sagittarius sun. The rest of the details I'll leave out to her. But if you didn't know, we're getting into the Sagittarius Archetype. So welcome, Sunny.
Thank you, Wandia. Let me tell you how excited I am to be here today. I've been thinking about this day since you did my podcast almost a year ago.
Stop.
And it was before you had started yours. Yes. And I was like so excited. And then I saw you do Leo and all these other signs. And I was like, come on, Sagittarius, this has got to be soon.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy to be here.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I feel like when I just thought about Sagittarius energy, I just thought, oh, Sunny, like she does everything. Like when I think of you, I think freedom. And I feel like that's among the themes we'll tackle in this episode. So do you have any questions for me?
First of all, I love that. The freedom.
Yes.
I think first I would like to know about the archetype of Sagittarius.
Yes.
And if you can kind of speak to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Sagittarius in myth is represented by the archer. So it's a centaur, essentially. So that's half man, half horse. And he's kind of like holding a bow, kind of ready to shoot.
Right.
And so this is just a testament to someone who is battling between the humanity and the beast-like nature, right? So animal instincts. And I feel like that's why this feeling of freedom comes from the Sagittarius archetype. So it's really about finding direction. That's the arrow is about finding direction. And when I think Sagittarius, I think about people who love traveling. They cannot stay in one place.
Yeah.
They need to be like doing plenty of activities. Sagittarius is a fire sign. So fire needs to burn. You need to burn that energy. So whether it's through traveling, whether it's through meeting people from other cultures, whether it's through higher education or like kind of like really getting deep understandings of everything around you, right? Sagittarius people are very philosophical. They believe in truth. The truth could be very defined, like this is my truth and I'm not straying from it, type thing. And there are also people with a lot of restless energy, just like the sister signs, Gemini. So they need to find ways to kind of like exert that energy. So a lot of them, you'll find them in professions like law or higher education, philosophy. Sagittarius people or energy is also known for teaching, right? So they can get very preachy. When I think about preachy people, I think like Nicki Minaj.
Yeah.
They are gifted with a gift of gab. They know how to speak. Which is essentially what you do.
Yeah.
So exactly, like people who use speech to draw crowds in. So whether it be radio presenting, whether it be rap, right, writing, very literary forms.
You were talking about energy and fire and being high energy. And I wonder, because this has been told to me before, does it also translate into the kind of exercise you're drawn to? Like
Absolutely.
Maybe less so than yoga, although I do enjoy a yoga session once in a while. I find I'm very much drawn to like high energy, lots of movement.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like that, especially with all the fire signs, you are drawn to more combative kind of exercise, more high energy, as you're saying. So whether it's outdoorsy, hiking, I don't know, like jiu-jitsu, things that really like, I don't know, have a high energy output, as opposed to, for example, like water signs who are like more prone to yoga. or
best
like
friend.
low. Yeah, exactly.
She's a water sign.
Exactly.
And she loves yoga. She
Yeah.
took a 6-week course in Bangkok to,
What?
or not in Bangkok, in Thailand to become
Wow.
an instructor. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I feel like for water signs, because they're very flowy and emotions, so things that center them feel more right. But with fire signs, it's absolutely the high energy type shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly, like loud music.
Exactly. Partying even. Just very intense kind of energy. And I find it sometimes that a lot of people are intimidated by that kind of energy. I always know that a Sagittarius has entered the room because they will speak immediately they enter the room. Like, they will not shut up. They will not shut up. And it's something that a lot of people really are irritated by, but I love it because it's like, yes, like fill up the room. That's how your energy should show up. So yeah, I feel like that's a really good thing.
But it's interesting because you mentioned how my sun is in Sagittarius. And I know other people who have their sun in Sagittarius, but because of the other planets in their chart, the way they present that sun can sometimes be different.
Yeah.
Because I do have a lot of water as well.
Absolutely.
And so I find that I am loud, and I can, when I'm comfortable and amongst friends, I can be the loudest person in the room and the life of the party. But I can also have a little bit of shy kind of timidness.
Yeah. Especially because we're both Cancer rising. So initially, like, even your energy is very settled. It's not overwhelming. But you will find that, especially people with combinations of fire placements or fire air, because like it's like a fire burning, literally.
Yeah.
It's like very high energy. And so you'll find people like that are the ones who are usually like stereotypically loud, right? But when you have like something like water to kind of calm this energy, it's like pouring water onto a fire, right? Yeah. So yes, you burn when you need to, you are calm when you need to, and I feel like both are needed. That's the thing. It's like too much of something can just be too much of something. Yeah.
And what planet rules Jupiter?
You said it.
Yeah.
Exactly. The biggest, baddest
I said it because I was excited.
Absolutely.
I wanted you to get there.
You're like, let me just say it.
It's like, come on, best planet.
So it's Jupiter. It's the planet of abundance and luck. And that's also how Sagittarius energy manifests. Like, it's very optimistic. It's like big, and I believe that I'm like this, and I understand why I'm like this. So when you think about, like, for example, Gemini and Sagittarius are opposite each other on the axis. And so Gemini energy is very restless, as well as Sagittarius can be. But Gemini energy can kind of like, it's very, okay, here and there, right? So, for example, a Gemini will be interested in the facts, but for a short period of time, right? So it's like, I know this. But a Sagittarius will be like, why do you know this?
Let me tell you, I used to stress my parents so much with the why.
Yeah.
Always wanting them to prove exactly how they know things.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know what to do. This guy is just blue.
Thank you. Why is it blue? Exactly. And that's like the opposition of that axis. It's about, and that's why Sagittarius is about things like higher education, because it's like taking a long time to assimilate information rather than just knowing fact by fact without deeply understanding the thing.
And in the past, you and I have spoken about like healthy, a sign being healthy, or I don't know what the opposite would be.
Yeah,
but, you know,
shadow.
Right.
Yeah.
And like challenged. Can you speak to that a little bit with Sagittarius?
Yes. These questions are so good. You're so good at this.
Thank
you.
Okay.
So
I'm mostly just learning myself. I'm like, wow. I wish I brought a notebook.
Yeah, because you have the
recording. I'll watch it back.
Yes. So the shadow side of Sagittarius is in there's a shadow side to the optimism, in that they have this kind of blind faith in things. Sagittarius people are very expansive, and they see the bigger picture, not so much the details. And that's why, for example, Sagittarius there's an aspect that's difficult. Okay, aspects are like relationships between planets or signs, right? So Sagittarius makes a difficult aspect to, for example, Virgo, which is a sign of details, because Sagittarius people have this very expansive view of the world. They know how the world should be. They're very moral, and that's why they can get preachy. Like, think about priests, spiritual leaders, and like kind of all the qualms you have with them, in that they have a very one size fits all approach. It's like, okay, do this, pray to God, and you'll be fine. But it's like, yes, we understand there's a need for spirituality, but everyone has a different experience, right? Everyone has different traumas. But the point of Sagittarius energy is that they will see the bigger picture, right? They will see the end point. And so it's very hard for them to focus on the details, right?
Does that maybe, like, I'm thinking of what that would look like in a person. Could that person then come across as like abrasive and not listening? Like, just
Yes.
kind of pushing forward?
Absolutely. It could look like you just wanting your opinion to be the end truth, right? To be the everything in that situation. And so, yes, Sagittarius people can become very overbearing while wanting to be listened to, but they can also become very good at not listening to other people, right? And also, this very idealistic view of the world can take them away from the reality, right? So it's kind of like a gaslighty feeling where something is happening on the ground and you know the reality. You can see the reality, but a Sagittarius will come and tell you, well, ideally, this is how things should be, right?
Yeah.
And it comes from a good place. It comes from an optimistic place.
But I can also already see how that's annoying. Like, for me too, if somebody comes across too optimistic and too ideal, I'm like, but I'm having a really bad day and I wish you could sympathize with me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So a lot of the times it's actually more work for a Sagittarius person to do to kind of like be, either have someone who is holding you accountable to the reality of what is happening, or actually like do more work, because they also have this side where they can assimilate a lot of information. So read more, expose yourself more, because that's their strength. In that way they can kind of manage to see smaller details, right? Yeah.
So, if it is in like a challenging aspect, if somebody's experiencing it in a challenging way, your suggestion is to like lean into the strengths of Sagittarius and like seek more information and knowledge and go deeper.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we started recording, we were talking about the full moon tonight.
Yes.
In Gemini. And I excuse me if I don't word this correctly, but I know that sometimes there's like these placements which are really challenging for
That's true.
a planet to be in, or like a sign. And I'm wondering what's that like, if Sagittarius is home in Jupiter, where is it having the most challenge? Or,
So it's having the most challenge in Mercury.
Oh.
Right? Because what Mercury is at home in Gemini. So when you want to see what planet is not doing well what sign is not doing well in a planet, rather, or what planet is not doing well in a sign, you look at the opposite sign, right? So Gemini and Sag are sister signs. So if Mercury does well in Gemini, then it doesn't do that well in Sagittarius.
And so equally, like Gemini's and Jupiter. Is that ever a thing? Is that possible?
It is It is, exactly. Okay. Yeah. So Jupiter and Gemini won't go really well, because you have a planet trying to assimilate and understand information with a planet that is very fast, that doesn't want to settle, right? That doesn't want to stay. It doesn't have staying power, right? So when you think about Mercury, we'll just get into Mercury here. So when you think about Mercury, it's a planet of communication. And so what you said about listening, right? So a Sagittarius, probably a Mercury in Sagittarius person, will try very hard to get the point across idealistically. Right? Yeah. It doesn't do very well with mercurial energy, because Mercury is very fast. Mercury was the messenger of the gods. So he'd scoot, go to wherever, Zeus, scoot, go to Hades. So his temperament is, he's a fast planet, right? So very witty, very, okay, this is the fact, this is what I need to do, this is what I need to do. But Sagittarius wants to stay and understand,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
needs an explanation. So it's like, why do I have to go? Why am I doing this? And so that's why they're incompatible.
So if somebody had Sagittarius in Mercury, what would that look like? How would that manifest?
Exactly like that. It will look like having a blind faith, a blind optimism. It can manifest also as not being a very good listener, right? Yeah. But it's still an energy that can work for you if you tap into Sagittarius energy, which is good with higher learning. Right? Because you have to think of Mercury as coordination. It's just basic, this is what I need to do, being fast at what you need to do, kind of. And that's why Gemini thrives there, because Gemini doesn't want to stick to one thing for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I think I get it.
Does that make sense?
I think so.
We'll get back to it. It's fine.
I'm like, slowly, you can see the wheels turning.
And you're also thinking like a Sagittarius mind, like, why? Okay, what does that mean? Right? Like you're trying to understand.
Apply it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, these are two questions, a little bit unrelated. One is, if you had like a Sagittarius child, how would you best help them grow and develop? And my second question is, one time you told me that your rising sign is how you appear. So what does the Sagittarius rising look like? Just out of curiosity.
Very interesting. So with a Sagittarius child, I feel like you need to give them the space, first of all. A Sagittarius child does not need to be sharing rooms with people. They need to be able to feel their own space. Space is very big for Sagittarius people. They need to be able to travel. Even if you start with just short distance travel, expose them to other people, other cultures, like even through food, even through music, right? Through like kind of mental pursuits, right?
I even liked what you said about like reading stories
Yeah.
and getting into books. And
Absolutely. So any form of assimilating information that they would understand, any form of activity, physical activity, right? Especially travel. If you can afford to travel with your children so that they can assimilate with other people, that will be lovely for them.
And I do like what you're saying about learning, because there's so many different ways to learn, right? So, like you said, whether it's through traveling or reading or like pursuing higher education, there's lots of different ways to expand your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so Sagittarius rising, if somebody is a Sagittarius rising, what would they look like?
That's Sagittarius having Sagittarius in your first house. So to avoid confusion, could we go through the planets first, like how you said Mercury, Sagittarius, and then we could go into the houses. Yeah. Because I feel like people will be like, okay, now we're in the houses. Okay, no.
Sorry, I'm too excited.
But also the Virgo Sagittarius square, that's how it's manifesting, because I'm like, okay, there's an order, and you're like, no, let's
I'm just everywhere.
Yeah. But I love it. I respect it.
Okay, so if we're going to go through the planets, we've said Sagittarius is at home in Jupiter.
Yes.
We've spoken about it as your sun.
Yes.
And in
Mercury. And the planets are at home in the signs. So Jupiter is at home in Sagittarius.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so now if somebody was a Sagittarius moon, what would that
that's beautiful.
look like?
I feel like a lot of Sagittarius moon people I know are just very scary. And that's very subjective. Let me just say that. I feel like because the moon is about emotions and kind of like femininity and the mother and like your daily habits. So what do you do on a daily? And I feel like that should essentially be heavily tied to travel. Should be tied to learning, higher education, philosophy. It should be tied to speaking, right? So these are people who probably really love to express themselves, and they need to. Like, there's an emotional need to express yourself, probably constantly, right? But also this is energy that will do really well traveling even probably traveling with your mother, right? Yeah, but like your emotions are very heavily tied to that and to spirituality. I forgot to mention about things like religion all fall under Sagittarius.
Oh.
Yes.
Wow.
So when you think spiritual leaders, when you think religion, philosophy, just like these very kind of like they seem like higher dimensions of understanding, you think Sagittarius.
So, would a Sagittarius moon best process their emotions in environments like talk therapy, where they can express verbally kind of what they're going through?
I feel like they will best express themselves through spiritual practices.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. More than therapy. I think therapy will fall more in like the 12th house matters or like Piscean matters. But with Sagittarius, it's more like the church, like very organized forms of religion and very organized forms of education. So like you'll find that probably like being a professor, being a religious leader, going to a spiritual retreat, those fall more under maybe moon in Sagittarius.
Okay. So I think I'm a bit confused in terms of what it looks like to have your sun in Sagittarius versus your moon. Like, yeah.
So your moon is your emotions, right? Your emotional need. The sun is more your self-esteem and your confidence.
Okay.
Right? So your emotions are probably very like instinctual and fiery. The sun is really, look at it as kind of like your core. A lot of people I've heard say that your sun is like what you're really working towards, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So the sun is very expressive outwardly.
Yes.
The moon is more introspective.
Okay.
So it's about how do I feel. The sun is who am I?
Okay.
I am.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And that's why the sun does well. I mean, yes, the sun does well in Aries and Leo because they're very like outwardly expressive signs. But the moon does well in Cancer and Taurus because they're feminine and introspective. And for example, Taurus is about creating comfort. Cancer is about nurturing and the home, right? So that's the difference.
Okay. That makes
Does that make
that
sense?
makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially when you said that I am statement, it kind of clicked. Okay, so can we talk about Sagittarius in Venus?
Yes.
I'm very curious about this.
Venus in Sagittarius.
Or excuse me, yeah. Venus in
Yes,
Sagittarius.
that's okay. I get confused all the time. So Venus is a planet of attraction. It's a planet of beauty, aesthetics, money, finances. So Venus is at home in Taurus and Libra. So think about beautiful things. Think
That's where my
about
Venus
business.
is, by the way.
Oh, where?
Libra.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, wow.
You made me so
Must
proud
be
when you
nice.
said that.
Like Venus is just rejoicing. Wow. So my Venus is in Cancer. So yeah. So what was I saying? Venus in Sagittarius. So these are people who probably have very strong feelings towards, again, Sagittarian themes. So think about they love to travel or they don't, because a lot of people think Venus is just, good and nice, but Venus is about attraction as well as repulsion, love as well as hate.
So would it also be like what you're attracted to in other people?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You're probably attracted to someone who loves traveling, an outdoorsy person, someone who loves space, someone from another culture entirely, right? Probably
someone you can learn from.
Exactly, right? Someone with an optimistic view, or someone in the church, right?
Yeah.
Also, when you think about spaces, like for example with Sagittarius, you think about other lands, right? So going abroad, pursuing higher education, churches, things like that. And you think also that's where you could meet people who you love or hate.
Yeah.
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 Because it goes both ways. And that's also where you could make money through the same places, right?
Yeah. Okay, so it's also about finances.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Absolutely. Venus is about finances.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know how people will often ask about compatibility and like, what star sign am I most compatible with? If you looked at somebody's Venus, like me as a Sagittarius sun, and I saw somebody's Venus in Sagittarius, would that potentially mean that there could be
A compatibility.
Yeah, even if it wasn't romantic, even if it was just like friendship or interests or something.
I feel like, especially with compatibility, it's very, the more what I've seen works in compatibility is the aspects more than the placement itself.
Oh, okay.
Right? So you could find that maybe you're a Venus in Sagittarius, for example, and someone else is a Venus in, let's say, Aries, right? Because they're both fire signs, they would kind of have the same temperament.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that will kind of make them, oh, we're both outdoorsy. Like, it'll be easy for us to just be like, let's wake up and go hike. Right? As opposed to like a Venus in Cancer person who wants to maybe do yoga in the house and cook.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's one aspect of it. But when we go deeper, which I will, like after this whole series, we'll go into aspects.
Okay.
And now you'll, for example, be able to see like, what is our Sun Venus synastry? What is our Moon Venus synastry? And that's where the gist is. Because now when you put the planets into it, the sign really, it just shows you what this energy is manifesting like.
Okay.
Like the temperament of the energy.
Right.
But the thing is how are our planets interacting.
Yeah.
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 I feel like that's a better way to look at synastry.
Right. And so seeing something in isolation doesn't give you much context
At all.
to who the person
At
is.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's similar to what you were saying earlier, where two people with their sun in Sagittarius can maybe present very differently depending on what the rest of their
extremely,
chart.
absolutely. Yeah.
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 So then what about Saturn in Sagittarius?
Oh, Saturn is the planet of limitation.
Okay.
Right? So Saturn is a planet that rules over time, discipline, karma.
Where is Saturn at home?
Aquarius and Capricorn.
I was going to say Capricorn.
Yeah. Perfect. So the opposite of those signs is, what is the opposite of Aquarius? Leo.
Uh-huh.
And Capricorn is Cancer. Yeah. So and then Saturn is also exalted. There's something like, planets can be at home and planets can be exalted, right? So for example, when you're at home and you're comfortable and you know where everything is, that's a planet being at home. But when, for example, let's say I come as a guest and you really like me and you want everything to be comfortable for me, that's a planet being exalted, because you're kind of exalting me because you want me to feel comfortable in your home.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So Saturn is exalted in Libra.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's in the opposite of exaltation is called detriment. So it's in detriment in Aries, because that's the opposite sign of Libra.
So I'd imagine Sagittarius isn't much better if it's in detriment in Aries.
I feel like now that the other that like very state that they don't know where they're in, it's also not a positive state.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, you're guests, but no one really wanted you, but no one knows how to kick you out or what to do with you, so you're just there, right? So I feel like that's Saturn in Sagittarius, because think about Sagittarius being very freedom loving. They can also be very like, we don't care about the consequences, right? Like we're just here for a good time. And Saturn is not like that. Saturn is very consequences, like karma, in a sense.
So then I can see why it's exalted in Libra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Libra is about justice.
Right.
It's about fairness. Regardless of your feelings, regardless of your me attitude, Libra is about what is fair to everybody. Right? So Saturn in Sagittarius just feels like being restricted within your freedom. Right? It means learning a lot of lessons to do with even travel, maybe travel restrictions, right?
Would it, and maybe I'm going a bit far, but would your Saturn return, would it matter what planet Saturn is in?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be kind of the themes of your, potentially?
Your Saturn return.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you have Saturn in Sagittarius and Saturn goes back to Sagittarius, exactly, that's your Saturn return.
Okay.
And the themes will be very specific to Sagittarian topics.
So maybe like looking for meaning through religion, traveling.
You get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only thanks to you.
Yeah.
I'm like slowly learning.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then can we talk about Saturn return briefly?
Absolutely.
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Now your turn.
Okay.
I don't even know where to begin.
So Saturn takes about 29 years to span through the 12 zodiac signs, right? So that means when you're born, after 29 years, and that's why this is the threshold for everyone, once you hit almost that 28, 29, 30, 31 period, you're probably... Actually, everyone goes through their Saturn return.
Yeah.
And for example, right now, the Saturn in Pisces generation are going through the Saturn return. And what happens is Saturn is the planet that holds you accountable, right? Through tough lessons.
Oh, right? Do I know it? Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I've been there.
You have Saturn in Aquarius?
No. Actually, yes, I think so. Yes.
So
yeah.
your
that was the one that just ended.
Exactly.
Yes.
The one that just ended. So now people are going to go through this Saturn in Pisces generation. The lessons are very much to do with Piscean lessons. So martyrdom, think being selfless, like being too selfless. So probably like think about what is Pisces about?
I feel like they're dreamy.
They're very dreamy, exactly. Very illusion-based, right? Very spiritual, very imaginative.
Yeah. Creative.
Yes, and that's why for them, it's the sign of enlightenment. It's the sign when, like, all is said and done, what do we transcend to? Like, that realm. Right? And it's a realm that is so far from reality. Pisces is the opposite sign of Virgo.
Yeah.
So us, we're really here, grounded. We're like, what do we need to do today?
Yes.
My mom is a Pisces. So it's just like cloud energy, just you're there in the clouds.
But those friendships are quite common, no?
Yeah.
To see people.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because we kind of balance each other. You also don't need to be too in reality where you're just absorbing all the negativity, right? You need to just breathe sometimes and let yourself be imaginative or whatever it is. And so this Saturn in Pisces generation especially is going through themes of abuse of spirituality. You remember like this pastor in the coastal region?
Yeah, Shakahola.
Yeah, exactly. And themes like that will be very prevalent because we see how people have been using spirituality to mass manipulate other people. And because Saturn is about harsh lessons and we feel them as a collective, they're very like, these are the things we see in the news, the things that a lot of people go through at the same time, right? We also have...
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Israel, Palestine.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. And so Saturn, a lot of times it's just about looking... kind of like doing an inspection on your foundations. So if your foundations are not genuine, Saturn will rock your shit for sure. If you've been lying to yourself, and that's what Pisces is about, it's disillusionment, right? So if you look at the house you have Saturn in Pisces in, and for example, let's say it's in your 11th house of friend groups, and probably you've been moving mad, you've been lying to your friends, you've been abusing your friends, that's exactly why it's coming to bring back the karma. Yeah.
Oh, Saturn is a cruel teacher.
It is. And that's why a lot of times people lose jobs, people lose other people lose their identities. So that like your 30s are, if you've grown, if you've actually realized this is the lesson I'm supposed to learn, the rewards come.
Right.
But if you don't, then you get stuck in another cycle until your other Saturn return.
Jeez. Yeah.
Which is again after the 29 years. So for example,
don't want to get stuck.
Yeah, our parents are going through the second Saturn returns.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a constant reality check. Like Saturn will give you time to play, those 30 years, those 29 years, you do what you want. But when I come back, your house...
We're going to go through this checklist one more time.
Exactly. It's a checklist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so which planets am I missing? Pluto?
Yes.
Mars?
Oh, yes, Mars.
Oh, how could I miss Mars?
Yeah.
That's... Okay, yeah. Mars, yeah.
So Mars is the planet of activity. It's the planet of energy. Like, you know that TikTok that says more energy, more passion?
Yeah.
That's Mars. Mars brings the activity
That
wherever
TikTok
it
is
goes.
Sagittarius.
Yeah, exactly. More energy, more passion. And Mars in Sagittarius just gives someone who is very overly active, especially in traveling. Like, this to me gives someone who is traveling constantly.
Or just on the go.
Exactly. Or just on the go, even energetically, even within the home, even like a child who just is always outside doing something or inside doing something. It also gives like teacher vibes, preacher vibes, right? Because this is how you exert that energy out in the world. It's the outward expression of Sagittarius energy. Another thing about Mars is it's also about sexual activity. So like literally how are you in bed? And I feel like it's such a good... Sagittarius, actually, men are known for their stamina.
Really?
Yes.
Did you listen to that, ladies?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not even lying.
Men
Sagittarius
already.
and Scorpio placements. Yes, those people are known for their stamina in bed. So just know that. And and yeah, so because Sagittarius energy is they're not in the head. So that gives a very like kind of playful person, and that's exactly what you need sometimes when you're having like an intimate moment with someone. You don't need to be too much like thinking, oh, how do I look? Oh, like very self-conscious.
Maybe also those people who like looking to have fun.
Absolutely.
Keep it light, keep it...
And experiment.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because of course expansion and... Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So Mars is action in like how you move through this world.
Absolutely.
And the way that...
Energetically.
Okay.
Like, how do you get up? Like, are you the kind of person to just sluggishly get out of bed, or just spring out and be like, okay, this is what we need to do today?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
I'm the sluggish.
Yeah.
That's you.
Yeah.
Where's your Mars?
Sagittarius.
Oh, yes. So you really like are out of bed, and because you're up by like 4 or 5. Oh.
And it's just like the first alarm. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try and sleep, and I'll close my eyes, and a minute and a half later, I'm like, I just got to get up.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
I really admire that, because my Mars is in Cancer.
Oh. You're like
just the raw end of the deal. Yeah, because Mars does not do well with Cancer energy. Yeah.
So is that about like...
It's about kind of being sluggish. Yeah. So I really have to try to do things. But luckily I have an Aries moon, which also just instinctually I feel like, okay, if I feel like I need to do this, then I'll do it.
Okay, so we have 3 more planets, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus.
Yes.
And before we get into those, you touched on it with Saturn, but can you help me understand the impact of the planet being closer to home, like closer to the Earth and to the Sun versus further away, and what that means? So if it has any impact on...
I want to understand. So, for example, you said Saturn. So what do you mean closer to home?
Oh, so I just mean like the placement in the solar system and Saturn being further away from
the Earth.
Yeah.
I feel like... Oh, okay. I feel like I've never been asked that before. And I don't have a definitive answer because I've never looked at the proximity of the planets to Earth. But yes, actually, yes, we have. So the closer the planet is to Earth, the faster it kind of revolves, right? So for example, when we say that the moon is the fastest moving luminary in the sky, it means that to change signs, right? Because we have to incorporate the signs if we're talking about astrology. And to change signs, the moon takes 2.5 days, right? And then, for example, like Mercury will take like a month or so, right? And then Venus will take like 2 months, right? So the further away they are, the longer they take to rotate, right? Or even to enter signs. So that means that these planets that are the ones we're talking about, Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune, will take very long. Pluto will take 14 years. Neptune will probably take 12, and like that. They take a very long time to span throughout all the signs.
Yeah.
But for example, Mercury will take a shorter time to span throughout the signs.
Yeah, and I guess what I was trying to get at there is then the further away planets are maybe more generational themes,
Yes.
as opposed to specific to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because when you look at the Sun till Mars, they're personal planets. They're actually called personal planets.
Okay.
But when you look at Jupiter till Pluto, they're generational planets.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't realize
Yeah.
Jupiter was there. Okay.
Yes, because, for example, Jupiter will take like a year, right, in a sign. And so that year, it means a larger group of people will share that placement.
And here I was thinking I was special.
Kind of.
A little bit.
Where's your Jupiter?
In Sagittarius. Yeah.
Come on.
I've always felt
Come on. Oh my God, that is so annoying. How?
Me and everybody else born my year, I guess.
That's
Yeah.
unfair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Neptune in Sagittarius.
Yeah.
How does that manifest?
So Neptune is a planet that rules over illusions, right? It rules over imagination. So think a lot of like Piscean or 12th house themes. So that coupled with Sagittarius, I feel like gives a very imaginative mind when it comes to your studies. So, right, like you're probably a very, very huge, expansive thinker when it comes to philosophy. Actually, I feel like this is a good placement.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because it makes you have a very, very wide perspective when it comes to learning, when it comes to traveling, right? It also probably makes you seek out a lot of spiritual experiences because Neptune has this aspect of spirituality in it, right? And so when you pair that with Sagittarius and loving to travel and be on the go, it will probably make you very immersed in like spiritual adventures. So just think,
That sounds fun.
yeah, it sounds really nice. It sounds really, really nice.
Yeah. And then Pluto.
Yes.
What does Pluto role?
Pluto is a very like fear-mongered planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can't remember why.
Pluto is about how do I put this? Pluto rules over themes of death and rebirth, right? So very, very deep, painful transformation.
See, I like those topics.
Yeah,
As a Scorpio
really.
moon, I'm like,
yes,
yeah,
exactly.
that's not scary. To
Yeah.
me.
I love them as well. Pluto is also about power, right? So wherever you want to look at the power dynamics in your chart, you look to where Pluto is. And so, for example, our generation, we're Pluto in Sagittarius, and we're very optimistic, even about like the systems, right? Like you'll find a lot of us are really like anti what is already here. We question things constantly. So like we're also really into astrology. Like Pluto in Sagittarius is really like into astrology.
Nice.
And it's just this thing of trying to question the systems, questioning religion.
I think we need that generation
Exactly.
for so long now.
Exactly. Because we're very like like my mom is into astrology now, believe it or not. And it's like you need to question what you're fed majority of the time. And so this is where, like, for example, I have Pluto in Sagittarius, and this is where I get my power through questioning like every single thing. I don't have this blind faith aspect. Right. So it also helps me assimilate information a lot, right? Because I love to learn and I love to read, and that's what Sagittarius is about. It's about understanding.
So then it's like where you find your power.
Exactly.
And it's through understanding.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then how does that fit into death and rebirth, which is
So this is like Pluto is the energy of transformation, right? So it's about shedding identities, shedding ideas. And I feel like through us questioning, like, for example, the very structural systems that we have, we kind of help other people shed identities, right? Like, for example, I've told you, like, I'm teaching my mom astrology. I did a tarot reading for her and she was like, whoa, this is mad. And I was like, yeah, because for so long she thought that she was supposed to be stuck in this Catholic space. And that's okay. Like, it's okay to respect whatever religion you grew up on. But it's not healthy to not question the things that you're fed, because those could be like, that's where maybe the problem is stemming from, is like all this, like, we're being ordained to be the same thing, everyone is being taught to follow the same structures, and it's like, no, death to these structures. Yeah, like, let's build other identities.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's about transformation in the areas that Sagittarius rules.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so exciting. I'm jealous. I don't think Pluto's in Sagittarius for myself. Maybe I'm a different
could be in Scorpio.
generation. Maybe.
For you.
Yeah, that kind of sounds familiar.
And it's at home, and that's exactly why you said I'm comfortable with.
Yeah. It doesn't
with Scorpio.
scare me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Oh, now I'm now I want to go home and read about Pluto.
Yeah.
Just from this small taste.
Yeah.
One last planet, which is Uranus.
Yes.
When Sagittarius is in Uranus, how does it?
Yes. So Uranus is very much about innovation.
Okay.
So it's about like new ideas, being inventive, being innovative, being unique, going against the grain.
Ooh.
And so it's kind of like being innovative within the themes of Sagittarius. So think about like these people who like just come up with new religions one day and they're like, why do we have to follow this? Like, we can do things a different way. So it's people who constantly challenge the status quo. So think about people who do this in higher education, right? Like people who are constantly like innovating stuff within the fields or within
so
religion.
Maybe like these alternative learning schools. Where...
Absolutely. Like I saw a school of occult and magic, like a master's.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah. In the UK, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, this is a shit.
This person,
yeah.
Uranus is in Sagittarius for them. Okay, and then I guess also like new inventive ways to travel or to experience.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now I need to know where my Uranus is, but I'll find out later.
Yeah, mine is in Aquarius. Yours could be in Capricorn.
Yes, that is it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that also sounds familiar.
Yeah.
That somehow seems boring.
Yeah. It's very like, it's kind of like opposing energies, I feel like, because Capricorn is very practical and like these are the structures that we need to follow to achieve success.
Right.
And
Capricorn's building the structure.
Yes. Uranus is like, we're not doing that here. Like, no. Yeah.
Lots of tension.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've covered the planets, and now we can move to the houses.
Celebrities.
Oh, celebrities? Okay.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So, which celebrities do you know with Sagittarius placements?
Okay, Jay-Z and I share a birthday.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
That's December 4th. Yeah.
I saw like Miley Cyrus, Taylor Swift.
Yes. Nicki.
Who else?
Janelle Monáe. Yeah.
I can't think of...
I know like of a couple of actors. Like, do you watch Grey's Anatomy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Izzy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I feel like Izzy got fired from Grey's because of like...
Yeah.
she I don't know what she said at an award show. She said like she didn't think her role was worthy enough to receive that award.
Right.
And I
remember that.
Yeah, I remember Shonda Rhimes being so pissed about it.
Yeah.
And like Sagittarius people need to know your mouth can get you in trouble. So tact is very important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, know what space you're in. Know if you're safe enough to say those things.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have to have like that spatial awareness. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
kind of off the bat, when you think of these celebrities, you're like, what does Nicki Minaj have in common with Taylor Swift? Have in
Yes.
common with, you know, Izzy Stevens from Grey's Anatomy. But then I guess when you start looking, that's why I love following you on Twitter, by the way, because when you do these, you've done it before about looking at different, either like the character or the actor that's playing the character.
Absolutely.
And you start to look at their chart and you kind of explain why they're behaving the way they are.
That is so crazy because that's the series I want to do after this.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
We need it so desperately. So desperate. I like love seeing your threads about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would love to see a longer format
Okay.
explanation because it's so interesting.
Noted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even because I've seen other people do it too, where like they're predicting. You know, you just take a character and you say, I think this is where their
Absolutely.
chart looks like.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love doing that. I love just looking at random charts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, when we first met, you were also like trying to guess some of my chart. I mean, I think I made you, to be fair. You weren't just like, this is what
you're
you
like,
are.
please guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was most curious about.
Yeah. I felt like I got Cancer energy right away. Yeah. That was very strong.
When you've met me in person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, why?
I feel like just the way it feels to be around you. I don't know how to explain it.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's quite calming.
Thank
you. Yeah.
Yes. That's awesome. Okay, so what are the nodes about? I've only seen them on like these websites where they give you your astrological chart. But I don't really understand what that's about.
Yeah, so that's very interesting because the nodes are like 2 points on the moon, right? So we call them the nodes of the moon or the head and tail of the dragon. And they're usually more like fateful points. So they're very karmic, right, in nature. So kind of like they're about the lessons you need to be learning. Right? In this life. So for example, when you look at the north node, it's always opposite the south node. They're 180 degrees in opposition, right? And so for example, if you look at the north node in Sagittarius, you look at it as what are my lessons? How can I tap into Sagittarian energy to achieve my destiny? It's a point, they call it points of destiny, right? So it's, for example, you're in a teaching profession. So how can you kind of maximize this energy to help you really achieve your goals, right? So think about Sagittarius. It's about travel. It's about teaching. It's about exploring other cultures, right? And so what lessons around these themes are you supposed to be exploring? Because a lot of the times now when you look at the south node, it's in opposition because the south node is your comfort zone.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's what it's the energy in which you're comfortable in.
So if your north node is in Sagittarius, would that mean the south node it has to be in Gemini?
Yes.
Okay.
Always.
Okay.
It's always the opposite.
If your south node is in Sagittarius, then the north is just in Gemini.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And that's always like the push and pull of it. It's like you have this one energy in the south node you're very comfortable with. But what you should look to achieve is what is in the north node.
Oh, so if your north node is in Sagittarius, maybe you like to just go surface level on a bunch of different topics.
Now that. Yeah.
But really, if you want to have expertise, you should be going deep.
Exactly. And if you want to transcend, like on a soul level, you should be going deep. And so that's your lesson.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you find that in your chart? Where, like, what impacts that?
You just they calculate because even right now the nodes are the north node is in Aries, the south node is in Libra as we speak. Yeah.
But does that also change with the moon the same way a day and a half the moon changes?
No, the nodes take about a year to change signs. Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll be like generationally, like me and my peers will share. For example, I have north node in Libra, but south node in Aries. So
Okay.
that could look like I'm very comfortable with myself. I'm very like authentic and impulsive. But that's the energy that makes me comfortable. That's my comfort zone. So what should I be working towards? Working with other people, understanding other perspectives, actual fairness, and not just self-centeredness. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. I think that's really good to know.
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
in terms of like, yeah, where you can be. Because sometimes you feel stuck. You're like, why aren't I
Exactly.
getting to the next level?
That word,
Yeah.
stuck. That's exactly it, because it's very easy to be like, I'm comfortable in this energy. And a lot of times, for example, I have my moon in Aries, and I have my Saturn in Aries, and I have my South Node in Aries. So it means it's an energy I'm really, really familiar with. But it's what has kept me stuck in a lot of karmic relationships throughout my life. And so how have I kind of gotten to heal that part of myself? Or healing is tapping into Libra energy, which is wherever I can make art, wherever I can interact with another person, wherever I can try to understand someone else's perspective. That's how I get out of that energy. So it's kind of like a feeling of forcing yourself
Right.
to do something that is completely out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and that kind of challenge is the only way you grow.
Yeah.
But I would imagine after that initial challenge, it starts to feel good.
Absolutely.
Because it's paying back
Absolutely.
the reward.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out for
Yes.
myself.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's it with the nodes, but also with, for example, South Node in Sagittarius, it means you're very comfortable with Sagittarian matters, right? So the opposite of that will be North Node in Gemini, which I know I talked about in the Gemini episode, so you can check that out. But yeah, that's exactly it, and I think we're wrapping up this episode. So thank you so much, Sunny. Would you like to plug your social media?
Oh, I would love to.
Yes.
Thank you. You can find me on Instagram, sony.side.up. That's it. That's where I'm at.
I love that name. Like sunny side up, but
Yeah.
sunny side up. I love it. I love it. Wordplay again, Sagittarius. So you can find me on at Wandiology on every platform, and this podcast on at the Wandiology podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So thank you so much for joining us for this episode, and see you on the next one, which is Sagittarius through the houses. Bye.